This is the first of 4 brief podcasts, each of which explains how the mark scheme works for an A-level essay. It's specifically geared at the type of essay question that you get in section A. As you can see, looking at the mark scheme here, there are 3 broad strands that a marker will be taking into account of when they read your essay. First of all, you've got the focus, the line of argument, then you've got the development and support, then you've got the communication. So this first podcast will focus on A, the focus, the line of argument. So zooming in. As you can see, the examiner works on levels rather than grades. But broadly speaking, you can translate those levels across to grades. Each year when you look at the grade boundaries, you can broadly work out which grade equates to each level. Now basically you don't want to be getting level 1 or level 2, both of which would be equivalent to a U grade. Level 3, you are at the lower end moving into an E. At the upper end you're certainly at a D. So D to E, think for level 3, and level 4. You're moving into C and B. Okay, so B to C range for level 4, and level 5 is moving into grade A. The upper end of a grade A, remember, if you get in the top 10%, is an A starred. So, starting at the level 1 and working our way through, focusing in on the line of argument. Okay, I'm going to use different colours to pick out the different strands here. And I'll start off, first of all I use red. Level 1, as you can see, is a series of statements, some of which may be simplified. It's not even worth mentioning this one. At A level you should be developing an answer which is strongly linked to the question, basically, is what we're talking about here. Moving into level 2, which is still a grade U, there may be limited analysis. So focusing in on the analysis aspect of it. What analysis basically means is that you are avoiding description. You're actually focusing your answer on the question. Some analysis will get you to the upper end of an unclassified answer. But as you can see here for level U, although there is some analysis, the analytical demand will be largely implicit. Now implicit basically means it's implied. The examiner's got to work hard to see that it is analysis. In short, you've got to be very, very explicit in the way in which you analyse, make it very clear that you're answering the question. Now moving into the A-level grades to get E, sticking on the analytical side, at the lower end, D to E, answers will be broadly analytical and will show some understanding of the focus of the question. Okay, so and that's got to be sustained pretty well throughout the response. Okay, it can't just be touched once. Okay. Now, thus the key point, which I'll keep emphasising throughout the course, about topic sentences. The topic sentences, that part of each paragraph which explicitly, not implicit, but explicitly shows that you are focusing in on the question. So it's picking out keywords that are used in the question, and you are relating the information in the paragraph to the question. Okay. Moving into B to C grades. Now it's not an exact science. Okay, there's always going to be fine lines, subtle shades where you move from one to the other, and the examiner's got to make a judgment on that. It's not like maths or science where you can mark that accurately. But what we're saying with level 4 is the responses are clearly analytical. They will relate well to the focus of the question and show consistent, and there's that key word, consistent understanding of the key issues contained in it. So you're really, really aware at grades B to C of what the underlying purpose of the question is. and that's consistently. If the examiner thinks you've just perhaps accidentally touched upon the purpose of the question in one part, then it's likely to get a lower grade. So you've got to be consistent. So again, that's about being very explicit in the way in which you relate each paragraph to the question. And then moving to level 5, there's an emphasis on a really sustained analysis which directly addresses the issues of the question, a sustained and very precise understanding of those key issues. So again, the movement from a grade B to an A is subtle. I think the key word is a precise understanding of the key issues. For me, when I mark, I would look very much for the introduction and the conclusion, and that's the place where you really show that you understand what the question is about and the reason that the examiner has asked you to spend 50-55 minutes of your life in an exam writing on that topic. They're not going to pick a topic randomly. There's an underlying reason for it. So you're very explicit, and you revisit that in the conclusion and show that precise understanding. So that's that. I'm going to change colour to blue now to pick up the next strand, because the next strand is what we call emerging line of argument. Now, you can't even see that in unclassified. That's how important the emerging line of argument is. Okay, so you can see in D and E, level 3, an emerging line of argument. Now, what exactly is a line of argument? I will often refer to a line of argument as the running thread. It's not just that you relate each paragraph to the question, but there will be a link, the way in which you link the topic sentence to the previous topic sentence, so that it is clearly connected in some way. So each topic sentence, which is the key sentence in each paragraph, is relating to the line to the question, but you're linking those topic sentences together into an emerging line of argument. Now, the example of the essay we've just done was about the strengths and weaknesses of the Kaiserreich. Now, the emerging line of argument, for example, could have been that that the Kaiserreich was inevitably moving towards possible revolution and collapse, which of course happened in 1919. So you're not just focusing in on the strengths and the weaknesses, but you're also linking the strengths and the weaknesses towards an overall point. And the point is that there were these great cracks and fissures, divides within society that were becoming increasingly difficult to manage, that were leading to the possible collapse of the empire, which happened in 1918. Now, there's your line of argument. So as you pick out those topic sentences and write those topic sentences, you don't mechanically relate each topic sentence to the question, but you have an emerging line of argument and you pull all that together in the conclusion. Okay, so D to E, the line of argument is emerging. Okay, it may not be there the whole time, but it is there, and you can see it in places. Moving to level 4, the line of argument is much clearer. So hitting the B and C's, there needs to be a clear line of argument, and again, that's why it comes down to a conclusion and introduction. An introduction is where you show an awareness of what the line of argument is, and you keep revisiting it, and then revisit it again very strongly with a judgment in the conclusion. And when you move to level 5, again you'll see it says a strong line of argument which will run through the response. All the way through. So again, it is just value judgments as to how consistent and how strong that appears. Throughout the course, I'll model examples of lines of argument. I'll talk about it. I'll give you feedback after every essay, and exemplify how you can do that. So the final strand, and I'll change colour here to green, is talking about the different interpretations. Now, whatever the question is about, historians will disagree over it. There will be different schools of thought, and you need to show an awareness of the schools of thought. Now, again, if you look at level 1 and 2, it doesn't even make reference to it. Level 3, you're starting to explain the different interpretations. Okay, so explanation of different interpretations. Now the key word there is explanation. You're simply describing what the interpretations are. So the example of the essay that we've just done, you may say one explanation is the intentionalist school, which is, and you simply explain it. Now you move into level 4 and you start to evaluate the different interpretations. Now evaluate basically means you attach value to it, so you don't just describe what it is, but you will point out the weaknesses of the interpretation. Digging beneath it and saying, well, that is one interpretation, but it doesn't necessarily hold true. There are weaknesses in it. So you are starting to evaluate. Now that's a way of linking, obviously, to the next interpretation, which would be the structuralist top-down school. You analyse the weaknesses of the intentionalist school, which then leads into the counter argument. So you're starting to attach value, and then if you move to level 5, again notice a consistent evaluation of different interpretation, which you strongly use to link to your line of argument. So you can't really do this separately. If you're evaluating interpretations, then you're using that evaluation to develop your own line of argument that we mentioned earlier in this podcast. So that is the first strand. I'll pause there, stop there, and I'm going to do another podcast which will focus on B, development and support. But the focus line of argument is the most important of these 3 strands.